Excited to be with you all today because I know the hearts of the people in this room. You are the givers. You do so much for your communities and you are making a difference all day, every day. So I'm so grateful for you. But I'm curious by a show of emojis, if you resonate with any of these. When you first started this work, your heart was so passionate. You wanted to make a difference. And then now sometimes it can feel like everyone needs something from me. I spend my days responding instead of leading. I keep putting out all these fires. I leave work wondering if I did enough. I carry people's stories home with me. I'm exhausted, but I can't stop thinking about tomorrow. So many of us, especially those of us who are from United Way, we can live and breathe the fact that our community's needs are a lot. I led another session for United Way next, and it was titled How to Be Present and Productive When There Is Never Enough Time. And it was the largest attended United Way Next webinar because I think of that last part of the title, when there is never enough time. So the weight that we can carry as leaders isn't just workloads. We carry home sometimes the family who couldn't find housing, the child who experienced trauma, the person in recovery who relapsed, the nonprofit partner facing another funding cut. I feel like that's almost the hardest part of this work sometimes. The employee quietly burning out, the volunteer who's overwhelmed, the community that keeps asking us to do more with less. And eventually, our bodies begin to carry what our hearts can no longer carry. And our bodies begin to tell the truth about the load that we have been carrying for far too long. But sometimes we don't even notice because it's just our normal. That's just how we operate. Because the needs are always there. And then without realizing it, all of a sudden we just start saying things like, oh, I'm just gonna send this one more email. And then it's all of a sudden really late after the time you were supposed to leave work. Or we'll just work through lunch. Or, okay, after this event, then I'll rest. Or I'll take a vacation after this grant. I know you all know that pressure around grants season. I can squeeze in just one more meeting. If I just work harder, I'll finally be able to catch up and then I can rest later. But somehow we never do. So burnout, again, is your body telling the truth about the load that you have been secretly carrying. And it's not just emotional, it's not just mental, it's physical. And our nervous system are continually asking this question, am I safe? And when stress never stops, your body begins acting as though that emergency never ended. And that's when, and because there can be good stress that's helpful for us, it keeps us alive. But when we live all the time in that chronic toxic stress, that's when our bodies get extremely affected. But there is hope because our nervous systems can learn safety again. So, my name is Kate Drayton, and I serve as a trauma-informed trainer, a burnout prevention specialist. I also work with the CDC Foundation as the Illinois Public Health Analyst. I train organizations how to release stored trauma and toxic stress with Flourishing Lifeway. And my greatest heartbeat is to help our leaders flourish, not just to survive. So I've trained thousands of leaders around the world how to help develop healthy leaders, healthy relationships, and healthy cultures. But it really does start with us. We want to become emotionally healthy leaders with relational intelligence who fight for the highest good of those that we lead and love. And it's not enough to just do a one-time self-care event. A lot of the approaches that organizations take towards wellness are really just putting band-aids on symptoms and checking the box so they can feel that they've done it. They're not actually really moving the needle on helping people's lives to actually become healthier. So I help organizations to trade toxic stress for regulated nervous systems through tools, practices, assessments, and most importantly, sustainable rest rhythms. And so today we're going to be really looking at the impact of trauma, toxic stress, and burnouts. What are the signs? What does this look like? And what can we do about it so that we can build not only trauma-informed, healing-centered responses, but also hopefully trauma-informed, healing-centered organizations, and then also as a result, trauma-informed, healing-centered communities. So we'll be looking at what is actually practical, what is helpful and healthy to do in the moment in response to someone's trauma and toxic stress, and what is actually harmful, because unfortunately it is so easy to cause more harm than good, even with the best of intentions. And then we're going to look at how do we regulate our emotions? How do we regulate our nervous system? How do we actually release that stored trauma and toxic stress so that before, during, and after responding, we are taking care of ourselves so that we can be sustained to respond in healing, healthy, and helpful ways for the full marathon, not just for the sprint. So again, I would love to, I'm curious if you connect with these. So these are 5 moments that I think a lot of nonprofit leaders, a lot of community leaders resonate with. So I'm not saying you need to totally change your life in one moment after this session, but it's just developing life-giving rhythms. And the root of the word restoration is rest. And the root of the word health is heal. So we want to build this into our life ways, how we do our lives. So let's walk through these 5 moments that I think you'll connect with. And then we're going to share what are some practices that we can do that are tangible, practical to help us move from survival to sustainable leadership. So if you connect with these, you can give an emoji response, or you can type in the chat, me too, or you can virtually raise your hand. But the first one is there's just simply too much that needs to be done. Too many emails, too many meetings, too many community needs, too many decisions, and not enough time. That that constant pressure of that toxic load that we are carrying can truly feel overwhelming. So you don't have to solve everything today. If we can just break it down into micro steps to help us feel that there is a little bit more that we can control when there's so much that are our uncontrollables. What are just the micro steps I can take to find more peace? So I did a whole session on the Peace Index for United Way, and you can watch that webinar to find more practical strategies for how we can do this. But a somatic practice that we can do is oftentimes the most frequent somatic practice that people think of is called the butterfly hug, and that's an EMDR practice like this, where you're tapping as you're doing deep breathing, and that just creates some bilateral stimulation. You can even do it like this on your collarbone. And so that's what most people think of as the butterfly hug, or that type of tapping. But another tool that we can do is just to really just expand our bodies and then just contract. And just moving like that. And if you don't have your camera on, maybe you feel a little safer, you can just try that just to expand. And you know what? It actually, when we take up more space, that actually tricks our brain into just being more confident. Especially women, when we get nervous and stressed, we make our bodies a little smaller. And that actually sends a message that we are less confident. But so just by taking the time to just expand, and even if you feel a little bit of tension, you maybe your body kind of shakes a little bit, it's just really let it out. The goal is just to release what your body is holding, what feels too overwhelming. And you can feel, the air moving with you as you do that. I recommend standing up and just really let it out, just feel it. So maybe another one of these moments that we feel so much is I'm stressed about this conversation. This is going to be a hard conversation. Maybe it's you have to tell one of your social service agencies that you have funded for years and years that we no longer have the funding to continue to support your organization at the level that I know that you need. Those conversations are heavy. Maybe it's a performance review where you could just you need to just call someone to greatness, but it's not easy. Maybe there's another community crisis. When Kirsten and I worked together, that was the start of COVID, or maybe like just like our United Way of Thinking, Iroquois counties had to walk through emergency response to our tornadoes. Maybe it's a presentation that's causing a little bit of anxiety. Maybe there's conflict, some turf wars between some community partners who think that the way they've always done things is the right way. Maybe they're change averse and you want to bring some transformation to your community. So all those things that our bodies can hold that. So this is another breathing exercise. And you're just thinking through who do I want to be in this conversation? And so I do a lot of releasing and receiving. So you can even, if you just have your palms up with me, this is just to symbolize I receive, and this is to symbolize I release. So I release, and you can just breathe through it. Exhale as we release. I release the pressure to seem perfect. I receive grace for myself. Exhale. I release the pressure to solve all the world's problems. I receive patience and just the knowledge that change happens slow. I release the need to prove, to please, to pretend that we're okay when we're not. I receive joy and I hold on to the fact that I know there are people who are unconditionally glad to be with me no matter what. So whatever it is for you, whatever your body needs, just to breathe through that. What do I need right now? And honestly, just to be a good friend to yourself. You all take care of everybody else so well. Take take that much intentionality to be a good friend and nurture yourself and your own needs. Because wearing that superhero cape and pretending that you don't have any needs, you may think that's selfless, but it's the greatest act of love for your community when you can show up as a resourced, emotionally healthy leader. So with this, another example, this heart-focused breathing, it's a loving kindness technique. So that sounds like woo-woo, but it's just being gentle with ourselves and allowing space and permission to feel what you've been just pushing down, putting on the back burner. And so you just sit down, feel held by the chair. You don't have to do no performing, just feel held and to keep awareness on your heart and imagine a sense of peace and calm radiating from it as you breathe in and out slowly and deeply. And so you can even sometimes people imagine like, this the stress that they feel and then they imagine as they exhale that there's a light just as they are just spreading that peace. Because just as panic is contagious, so is peace. And maybe you're feeling, I can still feel that meeting. The agenda was finished, the meeting time ended, and your body is still holding it. Your shoulders are tight. How many of us, we really hold our stress in our shoulders? Maybe you don't realize, but your jaw has still been clenched. Um, you just feel just so much pressure. And maybe it's you feel it in your lower back, in your stomach, when we get stressed, oftentimes we do these really shallow chest breaths instead of breathing deeply, expanding our diaphragm. So I'm curious if you put in the chat, where in your body do you most frequently feel your stress? Your neck. Me too. And you can even just if you just create, a little bit of warmth in your hands, just just doing a little bit of nurturing, just rubs on your neck and your shoulders, even if it's not like a real massage, it can still just send that message to you. I see you. I'm with you. I care for you. Your jaw and sometimes um, your stomach. So for your jaw, something you can do. So this is like the Star Trek sign, right? So if you just put your fingers like this and then put like them around your ears, like on both sides, and you just go up and down and then all the way from your neck all the way up. Because this right here, that's just stimulates your vagus nerve, which is just can be very soothing for your body. Um, I have fingernails, so for me, sometimes I'll just do like on my knuckles, just very gently on your neck. And then if you just traction up right here where your jaw is, just let your jaw hang slack and just so slowly go all the way up your temples. And again, you can feel free if you're not on camera, you feel more safe to do this with me. Um, but just to practice this, we're just being kind to ourselves, and we're just releasing. I see somebody else said in their stomach again that those deep breathing that really can be relaxing. You can also just do some hip circles and even just shift your weight from right to left because we really do hold a lot of tension in our hips as well. And in our back, especially for those of us who are working remotely, and they say the whole tech neck thing. Um, if you just doing some shoulder rolls, all of these things, they're free, they're easy, they're accessible, that they can just just send that message to your body that I want to do even just one little micro step to help you feel safer and that you don't have to hold this. Okay, this next one, if you're feeling really tensed, maybe even maybe anger. Maybe you just found out that Illinois is slashing this budget again, and it's going to really affect your people. Maybe it's that your kids are acting out of control and you're about to lose your mind, and your body is just like, oh, I'm overstimulated. I've been doing too much, and now just needs me when I come home, and they've been needing me all day. Something that I love. I grew up in a family where honestly, like they didn't like of all the emotions, anger was like the one untouchable one. It was like, don't do that, And so learning how to let my body complete that stress response has actually been so healthy for me. So one thing that you can do is if you have a wall next to you, you put your hands on the wall and you press on it with all of your might. You lean into it, kind of like you're doing like a runner's lunge, and you push on that wall with all of your might. And maybe you're even shaking a little bit. You can feel it in your muscles, and you really just push, 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 and that just gets it out of your body. Okay, so maybe you're in a meeting and you want it to be a little bit more discreet, even right now. Underneath, if you have like a desk or a table in front of you, if you just kind of push up a little bit, it just, nobody will see you do it, but it just kind of lets it get out of your body. Or if you just tighten your muscles, flex them up under the table, even your feet, and then you relax them. It just helps us to release. Another one, if you are really upset, If you just take a 2 minute, just go to the bathroom, give yourself permission to be human. And if you have a towel and you can just really squeeze that towel, we're just letting it out. So that way it comes out in, this is just a little movement that I did with my body that enables me to not have it come out in my behavior and in my relationships, right? Um, so compassion is beautiful. What you're doing for your community is beautiful, is needed, is love. But carrying everyone's pain is not sustainable. So I grew up in Nairobi, Kenya, in East Africa. And then I also lived in the Middle East. And so I grew up, surrounded by the people, the needs of my people were so intense, so much poverty, and then living in war zones, having to run to bomb shelters. I somehow, it really came back to a wound when I was 6 years old. I remember I I just had this moment that made me internalize that the needs of my people are so intense that I need to not have needs, which is not healthy. But as a little girl, I felt the weight of like almost like a diplomat, like the needs of my people are so intense and I need to just focus on their needs at all costs and just keep going no matter what, no matter if I'm scared, no matter if I just need to show up for my people no matter what. And maybe that's what you feel. You've been carrying this for so long, that sense of duty, but it's rooted in love, it's healthy, but then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this is all consuming and I can't turn it off. And that's when we're overextended. So another one is just letting go, just breathing, releasing. Um, just so at the end of the day, to be able to kind of leave work at work, what you can do is just imagine you're just like imagining that you're just wiping off the day, and even just that slow, gentle touch can it's just again just send that message to yourself. I'm not self-abandoning, and you just kind of say to yourself, their stories matter, but it doesn't have to live in my body. Just even like Taylor Swift says, just shake it off, just release, you let it go. And so with this one, you just allow permission for what you need to just release. So allow those emotions to come up and to be witnessed, focusing on the underlying feelings instead of the thought patterns. And then you just surrender any resistance to them. You let them come and it's contained. You're going to let yourself feel this for this amount of time. And then once you've released it, then you can be able to move on. But I think so many times we think we'll just suppress, suppress, suppress. But then that's when it's going to burst out of us at an appropriate time. I'm exhausted, but I can't rest. My body is tired. My mind keeps working. I'm replaying conversations. I'm thinking about tomorrow. I'm wondering if I'm forgetting something. It's just always going, the needs, the needs, the needs. So at the end of the day, maybe you can't fall asleep because you're still on that adrenaline and survival energy. So something you can do, you take the heels of the palm of your hand right here, and you just very lightly when you're laying in bed, you just gently press it's not even pressing, you're just resting them on your eyelids. And it just feels like a little bit of like distance with the rest of the world. You're just communicating safety, just allowing your body just to breathe and say, I'm safe enough to rest. I'm safe enough to release. And you can do the 5, 7, 8 breath when you're trying to fall asleep. It really helps you just to have that longer exhale than the inhale. So you inhale, you can do this with me right now. Inhale for 5, hold for 7, exhale for 8. And really expand your stomach and just really let all of that air out as deeply as you can. Let's just do another big exhale together. Yes, I'm seeing somebody posted in the chat. I love this. They said, I'm Filipino and we keep our emotions and pain all inside and not talk to people about it. Yes. So I do a lot of trainings around the world and every culture, it's different. When I was working with the war in Ukraine, for example, they felt that you can't talk to other people about it because they were still the effects of the Soviet oppression and the fact that people were spies. And so, like, just to talk with your neighbor and open up, that was hard. And then in a lot of, like, when I grew up in Kenya, a lot of tribes in their mother tongue, we have over 70 different tribal languages in Kenya. A lot of them don't have a word for depression today still. And a lot of our immigrant communities, we feel pressure when we come to be able to, we have to survive no matter what. And if we allow ourselves to be affected and impacted, we might not be able to keep going. And so it's just it's so different for every culture. I love how um like in the African American community, they're probably not gonna, like, a lot of men are not gonna go talk to a white therapist, but they'll go talk to their barber shop, and that's their therapist, Or in Kenya, where I grew up, our worship in churches is like Zumba because we are getting it out of our bodies. So every culture is different, and I love that. Another person said, I am Middle Eastern and grew up being very respectful and not really having needs. Yes, my husband is also from the Middle East. And I think also sometimes with when we've been through so many wars and things like that, it's like we don't have permission to be affected because we all just, our duty is to keep surviving no matter what. Um, and so yes, yeah, we do have a lot of workaholics. I pretty much every culture, but especially when we have those pressing needs to provide not only for our immediate families, but also for our extended family, for the village, sending all of that back home. I definitely resonate with so many of my loved ones from Kenya feeling this as well. So thank you for sharing that. I love that. Somebody said dance is so therapeutic. Absolutely. Yes, let's get it out of our bodies. So when we complete the stress cycle, stress accumulates, and eventually survival becomes our operating system, which is why trauma-informed care must include trauma-informed care for ourselves, not just for those that we lead and love. So we're not just looking at a micro level, how do we do this one-on-one? But at the community level, how do we create environments and systems where trauma is prevented, healing is supported, and resilience is built? So trauma's really become a buzzword. I've been told people think of me as the trauma girl. I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's a good thing. But trauma impacts everything. So this is some of the latest data just came out showing that actually we've had the data all wrong, that the world's leading cause of death is, in fact, childhood trauma. Because when you take the world's leading causes of death, overdose, suicide, stroke, type 2 diabetes, these chronic diseases, all those things, when you look upstream, what were those deaths attributable to? What was their ultimate root cause? So often it comes back to childhood trauma. And so the latest data right now, and there was a great book just published with so much research studies compiled into it called Greater Than Gravity by United Against Childhood Trauma. This highlights that now we know that 1,401 Americans die every day to deaths attributable to childhood trauma. That is the equivalent of 4 747s every day. And we're just looking away from it. It really matters. So trauma is not just a stubbed toe, it actually injures your brain. So I'm sure you've all been to many trauma trainings, um, but the way I break it down in simple terms for anyone is that there's type A trauma, the absence of good things, protective factors, and then there's type B trauma, the bad things. And those can be abuse, neglect, household challenges. But we really have to go even deeper from just our adverse childhood experiences to, in this example, those are the leaves and the branches, and we have to go deeper to the community environments. And those are symbolized by the roots, things such as poverty, racism, discrimination, poor, unaffordable housing, community violence, lack of educational, economic opportunity. This is literally what you do all day, every day with United Ways, addressing these adverse community environments. And then we need to go deeper to look at our soil. adverse collective historical experiences, slavery, genocide, mass incarceration, Holocaust, forced displacement. Those are our soil. And trauma can be passed down generationally, but you can truly be the cycle breaker for your family. Every trauma training, I always share this. If an individual has six or more traumatic events before their 18th birthday, their life expectancy is 20 years less. 20 years less, even if they don't engage in risky behaviors, just the physical toll on their bodies can result in a 20-year shortened expectancy. And did you know you can look up the zip code of your community and to see what is the life expectancy of that zip code? Because again, we are affected by our environments. So we need to work on our shared pond. As United Way, you all know the impact of budget cuts and how hard that can be. But if you want to do anything to save bottom dollar for your organization, the best thing you can do is become trauma informed and healing center. Take better care of your people because the annual cost to the US in lost productivity and healthcare attributable to ACEs is $748 billion with a B, billion. The annual total that the federal government could save by addressing and preventing ACEs is 277 billion. And I just read another study that showed that organizations, like this is across the board, not just nonprofits, businesses, organizations, are losing 5% of their overall budget to turnover because our people are getting burned out and we're not taking good care of them. So again, trauma injures the brain. So this is the brain scan. You can see on the right a brain that has been through abuse and a brain that has not. And they look different. It impacts us. The CDC says there's over 40 predictors from trauma. But so you're like, this is a doom and gloom presentation, but really there is hope because what is predictable is preventable. And that's a quote from the man who made the original ACE study. So trauma and adversity are not destiny for our individuals and our communities. So what do we do about it? So this just walks us through how do we respond in ways that are healing and helpful and not re-traumatizing. And it's different for everyone, but some common signs that somebody is in crisis. So in nervous system regulation trainings, we talk about these different trauma responses that we so often think of as fight or flight. But there's so much more. There's also fawn, and that is the people-pleasing tendency. Any people pleasers in the house? And that can be a trauma response. Or maybe you're in functional freeze, where your body really feels like you are like you're doing everything. You got to keep going. And so in work, you're performing, doing all the things, and then you come home and you have nothing left. You can't respond to your friends because you're too exhausted. Your kids, like you just have leftover emotionally to give them. So that's functional free. So it looks different for everyone. Maybe they're withdrawing more than they do usually. Maybe they're shaking. Um, so we just want to be able to meet them where they're at. So your body is actually trying to take good care of you when it shuts down after crisis and trauma by removing the non-essential workers. What does it not need to be doing right now to keep you alive? So for example, your digestion can slow down, your heart rate and blood pressure changes, your immune system slows down. So that's why when it's grant season and you're really stressed, you often get that cold. Your logical thinking brain, when you're really triggered, can go offline. So we want to help people feel that there's a little bit more in their control when there's so much out of their control. You want to be aware of their story, of their context, of what's impacting them. And then ultimately, this whole session, I can give you in two words, relationships heal. Connection is the superpower. So this is a bottom-up approach because we know that 80% of our nerves communicate from our body to our brain and only 20% from our brain to our bodies. And so often, if people do anything to address the trauma they've been through, maybe they'll go to counseling, which I'm a huge fan of counseling. I think everybody and their brother needs to go to counseling. But that is only neck up talk therapy. And our bodies, again, are still holding all that we've been through. And so we're just putting band-aids on symptoms until we can actually release that. So we calm our bodies. We start with us, then we help them establish safety. We help them calm their bodies. We listen and we validate. We help restore their sense of control when there's so much out of their control. And then again, we end taking good care of ourselves. So panic is contagious, so is peace. So we want to show up as that healthy first responder, not as the bleeding first responder. So I have been guilty of this at some times in my life when it was like I had community codependency, macro level codependency, where it's like, if my community is not okay, how can I be okay? You know, my people are suffering, and you're going to tell me go have a bubble bath? That doesn't help. You know, we need community care more than we need self-care sometimes, and we need to change the systems and the cultures that are continually causing harm. But there's so many things that we can do. We've shared so many already that we can do to help calm our bodies so that we can show up as ways that are healthy for the people around us instead of just carrying all of it and then becoming that bleeding first responder and getting broken down because we're just in our empathic distress instead of in healthy empathy. So then we establish safety. We help them find a relatively quiet place. For a lot of people, even just to have a wall behind them feels safer. Nobody's not going to come up behind them. Sitting next to somebody can feel less threatening than sitting face to face, because that can be a little confrontational sometimes. But just listening to what they need, not pushing your agenda of what you think they need on them. How do we help them calm their bodies? Saying their name is like the sweetest sound to any human being. It just shows like, I'm for you. I see you. You matter to me. I just did a whole presentation here in Orlando on health promoting relationships and the science of flourishing. So relationships matter. Um, just reassure them, you're not alone. I'm here with you. Breathing together, going for walks. I'm a huge fan of walking meetings. They're so valuable. So calm their bodies. So let's self-hug. Again, you can do the butterfly hug. There's also the self-containment hug where it sounds weird, but you put one hand under your right armpit, left hand over your shoulder, and that like it just feels like your heart is protected. And then you just breathe like that and just rocking, swaying, humming, that just stimulates your vagus nerve as well. The five senses, what are five things I can see, four things I can hear, three things I can taste, two things I can touch, one thing I can taste. I messed that up, but you get the picture. I like to do just a scan for beauty. You know, what is something that brings me joy? Something I can look at. Maybe it's a vibrant color. Maybe it's a picture of someone I love. And it's just a glimmer for me. It's something that just brings me joy instead of being a trigger of something that's stressful. Self-soothing. So again, we're rubbing hands together to create a little warmth and then just placing them where they need. Just where you just to send that message like, okay, I'm not gonna just push through this. I see that you're affected. That cathartic release, stomp, shake, run, jump, just to get it out of your body. If you need to do the silent scream, the whisper scream, get it out. Crying actually releases poisons from our body. It's so good. Listening and validating. You're not forcing them to talk if they're not ready. You can sit in silence with them. You can be in the pit with them. You're not trying to fix them. You're just creating space for them. And if it just becomes too much, just let them slow down, take breaths together. So helpful things to say. I'm sorry this happened. I hear you. That sounds really hard. I believe you. It's not your fault. You didn't deserve this. It's okay if you don't want to talk now. So I invite you, if you want to come off mute for a moment, what's something that someone has said to you that felt good in the moment, that felt helpful when you had been through something hard? You did the
Um,
best you could. I love that. Go ahead. I admire your courage. There's no judgment here. It's the judgment-free zone. You can talk whenever you're ready. Thank you for sharing and being brave. All those things. That just sends that message that you're validating what they've been through. You're not dismissing it. I believe you. It makes sense that you'd feel that way. I love these. Take all the time you need. Yes. Oh, that just feels like a hug in one sentence. So, what to avoid? Forcing them to talk when they're not ready, giving unsolicited advice, taking over with your story. So we try to connect. So then we share something that we think connects to show that we understand. But really, that kind of makes it about us when we just need to be focused on holding space for them and validating their pain. So these are some things that send that message that kind of feels invalidating. And we say these with good intention. You'll feel better later. Everything will be okay. Everything happens for a reason. This will pass. Just be happy. Don't worry. Don't cry. Just try to forget about it. Um, I love some of these people are still sharing in the chat. Take your PTO. Yes, encourage that, model that. Carol Carol Peters has her self-care Fridays when she gets her hair appointments. I love that. What do you need from me right now? Yes. Okay, so what is something on the other side of the coin that did not feel good when someone said it to you? It felt invalidating. Maybe one of those cliche things. Oh, everything happens for a reason. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. Like in the moment, that just feels like so invalidating of what I'm going through. When people say, don't sweat the small stuff. Okay, this is not small stuff. When somebody says, just relax. Okay, now I'm getting bigger. That does not feel helpful. Um, Terms of loss. Oh, they're in a better place. They're watching down from above. Like, okay, no, thank you. Permission to leave the office is critical. At least it wasn't worse. Fake it till you make it. Like all those things, they just, with good intentions, they feel dismissive. So then we ask them, what do you need right now? How can I support you? Help them do you want to sit here? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want some water or tea? Just those little choices just feels just like you care about what they need. And then again, we end with ourselves. So caring for others can be both rewarding and draining. So what does my body need on a scale of 1 to 10 to feel more okay? Release and renew. I'm a firm believer that a cup of tea makes every day better. It's so important to me just to have that space. So, sustainable leadership requires sustainable rhythms. And we cannot control every crisis, but we can strengthen the way that we live. And so, I led this training for United Way Next. Previously, it's still online, the Peace Index, um, to help us find inner peace in times of external chaos. So, our rest rhythms truly do matter. So, if you have not taken the Peace Index assessment, here's the QR code for that. I would encourage you to just take some time to just to look at these different areas and what you can do to find more peace in these different areas of your life. So it's looking at our relationships, people, purpose, place, our physical environment, provision, finances, and then personal health. So that's holistic, that's emotional, spiritual, it's our physical health, all of those things all together. And so then you're looking at what is within my control? What is one little step I can take to find more peace? And which one of these is the one that's driving my peace the most, impacting them the most? You can also look at the hope meter. Um, so are you feeling in the red zone, the yellow zone, or the green zone in terms of how hopeful you're feeling about tomorrow? Maybe you're feeling you're a 10, you're feeling pretty hopeless. Maybe you're feeling that you are actually in the green and you're feeling optimistic. You're about a 75. So this just gives a common language to use with your team of like, okay, I'm at a 20. I need to tap out. Can you handle this? And I'll be back in 2 hours. It just is just a good code word to use. And then also another way to see, are we operating in our strengths and what is life-giving for us or what is draining? It's a 70-30 principle. So if we try to operate 70% in the areas that are our natural strengths that we're just naturally good at, that are energizing for us. And then only 30% in those areas of the things that we can do, but they're hard for us, they're draining. Get AI to do those yucky tasks and focus on the ones that you find life-giving. If we spend 70% of our time in the areas of our natural strengths, we'll have energy for the other 30%. Tempo, balance, focus. Is my work sustainable, rhythmic, repeatable? Are my relationships in sync? Am I keeping the main things the main things? That last sentence I want you to really reflect on as a leader. Again, the root of the word restoration is rest. So we should rest first and then operate out of the overflow of that instead of just having the breadcrumbs for ourselves. And just soak in the things that bring you delight to get more life out of your living. So again, I train leaders around the world how to develop healthy leaders, healthy relationships, and most importantly, healthy cultures. But most organizations are just exhausted. Burnout's rising in every sector I talk to. Leaders are overwhelmed, teams are disconnected. We see so much quiet quitting where even if they don't actually quit, they're just performing less. They're doing less. Because they're just shot emotionally. But most solutions just treat symptoms instead of actually healing the systems. We want to actually change our systems and our cultures. So I would love for you to take this an assessment to look at your nervous system health and your well-being holistically. And it will then I have an app that it will tailor the somatic practices that we just walked through to what your body needs in that moment. And it also looks at your heart rate variability and will help you with those shifts towards those habits to bring more health into your life. So you can feel free to take this assessment, scan that QR code at your leisure. So you'll get these slide decks, so you'll have access to this if you want to do it at another time. But I really encourage you, as a loving gift to yourself, take the time to look at how you're doing it, taking care of yourself. And this is for that app. If you would like to really be able to practice this on a daily so that you can become a part of your life way. And on my website, I have so many free assessments, free supports, tools to bring to your organization and resources. And you can also watch some of our previous United Way Next webinars that I've done. But if you want to be the person who brings transformation to those that you lead and love for your organization, to start with yourself first and then learn how to bring that to your organization, I would love to partner with you and your organization to be able to strengthen your resilience, become a healthier leader, improve the culture around you, and multiply healing and sustainable impact through your organization and your community. And it's looking at the whole ecosystem. So we have healthy leaders where we're teaching nervous system regulation and resilience, somatic practices, emotional health, healthy relationships, learning how to respond in conflict in healthy ways, relational intelligence, knowing what your people need, and then healthy cultures, trauma-informed, recovery-friendly systems. And we have a full learning management system portal to walk your organization through this, the team performance assessments, the individual assessments. We have AI that we've created just to help your organization walk through. So it's a full just press play ecosystem to help bring health to your organization. To prevent burnout, strengthen resilience, improve communication, cultivate emotionally healthy leadership, and become catalysts for healthy organizations and communities so that you can show up and be the most healthy person in the room and then multiply that health to those that you lead and love, because the needs of your community will never stop, but your nervous system deserves safety, recovery, and rest. And when you flourish, your impact grows. The work is still important. The needs are still real, but you don't have to carry them in your body. Sustainable leadership is learning safety again and again and again. So join us for our next Flourishing Formation, where again, you'll receive this care for yourself so you can get on track towards health, and then you can help bring it to your organization. I'll pass it back to Kirsten, and thank you for all you do to take care of your communities and to take care of yourselves.
Thank you, Kate. So we are coming up to our hour, but before we head into some Q&A, if you have any questions, I just wanted to give anyone who needs to hop off early the opportunity to drop your questions into the chat, and we can make sure that Kate can answer those for the recording. Ivy will be sure to follow up with that email, which will include Kate's slides and any other links that have been mentioned on the session today. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Kate, for your time today and all of the insights and information that you shared with us. And a special shout out again to our sponsors, Mutual of America, Front Stream, Third Sector Company, Board Build, UPIC Solutions, and Give Pulse. And you also will receive an event feedback survey. It takes about 60 seconds to fill that out, and it's super helpful for us and our team to make sure that we are giving you what you need as members of United Way Next and attendees. So I will open it up now to any questions. Feel free to drop those in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves and ask as well. I don't think I'm seeing any questions in the chat. Um, if we don't have any questions, then I think we can wrap it up a little bit early today. Thank you all so much for your time, and thanks again, Kate. It's been a great session, and we're always grateful to hear from you. So thanks again for your time, Kate. And thank you to everybody who joined us today.
Thank you all. Have a life-giving day.